a yarn bowl. If I can select the right camera, this is a yarn bowl that I made a long while ago. It's even cracked now, but it will take 100 gram, whatever the standard, I don't know what the standard size is for for yarn, but it'll take 100 gram ball once it's all rolled up. I made a mistake with this because this was a natural void in the timber here, and so I just continued it around and put a little hook there, which meant that the yarn keeps coming out and flopping out, so it was a bit of a waste of time, plus it's cracked. But it was made of yew, quite a heavy base, which I think is the idea for this. I made this one out of a piece of cedar a couple of days ago, so I had a much better place for the yarn to come out. It's probably a little bit wide, that, and also it's very thick, but the timber was all cracked. I've had it lying around for a long time, so that was another fail, I guess. But it seemed quite good at the time. It turned quite well, to be fair, so that's it. So what we intend to do, I started with, this is the lump of wood I took the cedar one from, because I just drew on here where I'd get the second yarn bud out of it. So this was across the grain like a standard bowl. All the other ones I've done have been out of lumps of wood like this. If I can find the right place to put it. There we go. Yeah, this one here is slightly too narrow. I think it's only about 14 mil at the shortest distance. You need about 15 millimeters in diameter if you can. You can make them a lot smaller. I think all the ones you find for sale are around about the 15 millimeters diameter and only about 7 or 8 tall. Mine will be between 10 and 12 mil tall, with a little bit of weight in the base just so it doesn't pull over if you're knitting catches or whatever. So this, I'm in centimeters, you're so right. So I'd get 2 bowls out of this if I just cut that in half and square the ends up a little bit, and that would make 2 just about. So that'll go straight onto my M33 fitting. Turn it around. This is a piece of yew again. It is just 150 millimeters. So there it is. It's on there. I'm going to bring up the tailstock just to a little bit of support to start off with, but obviously as I start turn it round and chuck it, this is going to be my chucking point at this end. So if I can put myself up there, yeah, just about. Yeah, chucking point is going to be down at this end, and it's going to be about 50 mil. And actually that here, I'm not too worried about that, this little mess here, because once it's turned to a bowl shape around, most of that will go. But I quite like there's even a little bit of woodworm in this in various places, which makes it look even more interesting. It's a tiny bit of spalting going on because it's been down for quite a long time. There's a small crack here, but it's only in the sapwood. I don't think the heartwood's too bad, but there's 3 branches coming out of this end, so that's pretty good. So I was going to put my visor on. I hope you can still hear me throughout with the visor on. Is that okay? Yeah, I should think so. It was alright last time. I'm just going to take it down to round just a little bit, to get rid of some of those bits and pieces there. I got my lathe up around about 1200 at the moment. It's quite a big chunk of wood. I got given this tool for Christmas. Easy Wood tools with a little square scraper on the end. I've been messing around with it. I haven't played with it a huge amount, but seems to do a fairly good job. Great for doing chucking points. I can't think what else you might use it for, but certainly is great for chucking points and things like that. So it has to be used dead on centre as well. And the good thing is a little bit of line here says don't go any further than that line when you're using it. I don't think the finish is particularly good off this tool. And I want about 50 or 60 mil. Just a little bit more. Okay, we're just about there with that. Make it slightly deeper. My jaws on my axis thing is, they're about 8 or 9 mil deep, I think. That's probably enough. And I'm just going to, if I can find it, in the jaws I've got on the chuck, I've got a little tiny gripper piece at the top. It's only about 2 mil, so I'm just going to put that in there. And the idea being that the chucks will sit on that sort of flat bit there, which I better make sure is really flat. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't like being extended over beyond it. That should do it. So I'm going to put a bit of a shape into the base here. I might even extend that a little bit more in a minute, but we'll see. So this is a 13 mil bowl gouge. And I sharpen this using a one-way system. I mean, you want something for the bowl to sit on, so there will be a base to it about 2/3 of its diameter. It seems to be the norm these days. And that's probably sit on the base there, so I can just take a little bit more off this. Let's try this again, see if it'll... Right, so I'm going to mark around about where the middle of the bowl is, or just slightly higher than the middle of the bowl, to be fair. And so that'll be the widest part of the bowl going round to the foot. Similarly that way. And these bowls don't have to be round either. You could have a straight-sided bowl if you wished, and I've seen them with lids on as well. I think the idea is to try and keep the woolen ball inside the bowl, so I think that this sort of shape lends itself to that. Yeah, it's probably a little bit tall, that, so we'll take some off when I re-chuck it in a minute. As you can see, it's sort of starting to take a barrel shape now. Don't quite like that foot very much. Still got a little bit of a void in. Yeah, so what did I get to? Yeah, I think I will shorten this just a little bit. It only needs to be, I don't know, 100, 110 mil tall, so 4.5 inches maybe. Should be enough. And again, that foot could do with being a little bit smaller, I reckon. I'll sort that one, chuck it the other way. It'll be reverse chucked in the end anyway, just to get rid of that foot. So all the time I'm making these cuts, I'm not actually looking at what I'm cutting here. I'm looking at the top of my timber, and that's where, this is the wood that's about to be cut, and that's where the wood comes off after it's been cut. So that will give you the shape then that you can see, and you can also see any high points, which I will take off with a scraper. I thought I'd turn the speed up a little bit more now, about 1500 RPM. This is a negative rake scraper, which I found really nice to use. Get nice shavings coming off. The thing about these negative rake scrapers, of course, is the cutting edge lasts really a few seconds before the burr has disappeared, and it relies on the burr to give you a good finish. Yeah, still got a little lump in there, but I'm not going to worry about it for the time being. Take it off here and rechuck it. Cool. So I'll take the faceplate off. I've only held this on with 4 screws. I think they're just 1 inch or 1 1/4 inch 10s, which gives plenty of support. You can use longer screws if you felt you should need to, because most of the inside is going to be cut away anyway. And I never reuse those screws again a second time. Right, so the next thing is we're going to obviously scoop out some of this centre here to make our bowl, and I might just reduce the height a little bit as well, just to actually I'll do that first. So I'm going to support it with a tailstock, and then just reduce the height a little bit. Yeah, let's see if that'll do it. Feel terribly secure, this tool. It's quite, where are we? Over here somewhere. Oh no, over here somewhere. Quite a thin section. It's only about 8 or 9 mil square. I reckon that looks a nice height now. We may tweak the base a little bit later. So I can get rid of that bit off the end, and I'll just use a bowl gas to do that. Even this great big lathe doesn't like having, you know, something that long hanging off the end and trying to cut on it. And it's a 750 kilogram lathe, so you would have thought it would have held on to it. Now how you get rid of this wood from the centre is really entirely up to you. I mean, if you want to use a bowl gouge, it's going to take a long time. You've got quite a lot of material to take out on end grain with this. And, so I might just be tempted to try and use a very big Forstner bit, which is what I did with the other two. My Jacob's chuck isn't the best thing in the world. Right, I'm going to turn the speed right down now. These things don't like being spun up too much. And the other problem, of course, is with you, if you get it too hot, it'll crack. You get all the heat cracks in it. So this is about 400 RPM. As I push the Forstner bit in, it's going to slow it right down. I was holding about 400. So it's generating quite a lot of heat already. You've got quite a big hole to dig out here, so back it out a bit. Yeah, those shavings are nice and hot. I think what I might do is just clear some of the wood from the sides here, so it don't generate so much friction. And I'm going to turn to my trusty hope hollowing tool. This has taken some stick, this tool. It's only, I don't know, 10 mil cutter on it, and I guess you only get 2 bites of the sherry. Just turn it 180 degrees and you go. And this is, I've had this actual tool in there for ages now, so let's just get that out of the way. Yeah, so I'm just going to take some of that out just to allow the Forstner bit in. It likes to have the tool pushed fairly well across the, you can't really see it on that angle. What about that one there? No, but you can see what I'm doing, but it does like to have the tool put across, fed in that way and then pulled out of the hole. Do it for now. I can turn the speed down a touch. Right, just see how deep we've got. Right, so I am about 2/3 of the way down. Need a little bit of weight in the bottom of the bowl. Right, so we are about 3/4 of the way down. I'll stop using the Forstner bit now because it's a bit a hollowing tool from Mr. Hope. And again, this one likes to be on centre too. Let's give you that camera. You can see what I'm doing there, perhaps. Yep. So I'm going to try and get down at least another, I don't know, 15 or 20 mil, and bring the thickness of the wall thickness down to around about 5 or 6 mil, It really depends on how brave you are at I have got other hollowing tools, but I don't do a lot of deep hollowing anyway, so the other ones I've got, the Sorby one, I find it just too aggressive. It probably isn't aggressive, it's probably just my technique. But I quite like this one. It's a small bit, only 10 mil. And what you don't want to do is take too much material out the bottom before you've got the top to almost the thickness you want, because it will flex quite a lot. So you really need to get this down to the right diameter first before you go too deep. All I'm doing with the tool now is from centre is coming at this angle and then arcing it around my fingertips really until I get to the wall and then dragging it out. And that then will make the base sort of fairly round. And you can use this both directions as I'm doing now. It's a fairly forgiving tool. Oh, there goes my torch on the floor. I have got lights on the side of my tailstock here, that John Wood's LEDs. I find them really good because they're really good magnets on them. They're really bright. Only my power supply busted, so I've had to nick a power supply off something else. Right, so I'm probably as deep as I want to go at the moment. Maybe a little bit more. Right, so I could take a long time to do this, so to save a little bit of time, I'm going to take this one off and go to one that's sort of partially completed. And then you don't have to watch me doing hours of hollowing out. You do need to take your time, particularly when you start getting a bit thinner. You can see now, it's fairly rough there. It's about 10 mil, I suppose, at the top. I need to get at least another 4 or 5 mil off that, and then you can see it's quite thick in the middle there, and then another, I don't know, perhaps. Oh, you can see the 3 branches. I don't know if you can see the 3 branches there. Yeah, lovely. That look a nice bowl in the bottom of it. Pity that you can't see that. So here's one which I have sort of nearly finished hollowing out. I've also sanded the outside of this one to avoid disappearing into. And this one here, its depth is at the centre anyway. Let's see what that is. Like that. Yeah, so I'm an inch shy of the base, which is probably as deep as you need to go anyway, because you do want a little bit of weight at the let's try that one there. Yeah, a little bit of weight towards the bottom of the bowl here. This is, it looks like a crack, but well, I think it's a crack through the sapwood. There's nothing on the inside of the bowl. And again, cracked in the sapwood there. Crack around the knots. And again, tiny bit of spalting in this, because this wood's been hanging around. And I've got this branch that's coming out here. Just hope that doesn't decide to part company. I have put a little bit of super glue in there just to try and make sure it stays put. We shall see when I start taking the bottom of the bowl out. So again, I'll continue using the Simon Hope hollowing. Actually, what I can do now that this one's so deep, I can put my tool rest inside the bowl, as long as it doesn't touch the bowl anywhere, and as long as I stay on centre, which this is, and then that's fine. That gives you better support at the bottom of the bowl. Let's go back to that one there and see. This was done yesterday, so it may well have changed shape in this nice damp garage a little bit. So I'm going to go in at the bottom here and just try and hollow it out a little bit more. Right. So I've got a little tiny thick piece just about the middle of it. But the bottom feels pretty good, slight dimple in the very bottom. So I'll just try and work in this area inside the bowl, just to try and get that a little bit smoother. A little bit more in there. It's, as I say, it's about 5 mil up here, and then it goes probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 mil towards the middle bit there, so I can afford to take a little touch more off there. Okay, we're nearly there. I think what I'll do now, I'll just try and finish it off with a scraper, the half round scraper, fairly beefy. This is about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch, I suppose. And again, you want it on centre, which that is not far off. And then over the again, this is a negative rate scraper, just about, so it's slightly less aggressive than a true scraper. And also because of its size, it will take off the high lumps inside. Just a little bit more at the midpoint. You can see it's now starting to vibrate the wood because it's quite thin. So if I had a catch now, you'd probably lose your item, so I'll try and go a little bit gentle. Cool, definitely disappearing in the dust now. Okay, we're probably just about right to do a little bit of sanding on this, which I will do, because the next thing is to cut away your shape to that. Come on out. And I will put on some sort of extraction here, save me disappearing into, disappear out of shot on my switch for the My sucker is all the way over there. Sorry about the noise. So I'm going to start with the 120. It's quite rough inside there, but and I'm going to keep the speed down to around about 900, I guess. Same thing, you don't want to get too much heat into this, otherwise it'll start cracking. The U will, not all timbers will, of course. But this is 120 grit. Only because I haven't got any 80 or 60. To be able to finish off my bowls at 240 and then have to do a little sanding. At least that's what the pros tell me I should be doing. I suppose if you were turning every single day, you might achieve that. That was 180, 240. And then 320. That's as much sanding as I'm going to do for now. Clearly you'd take a lot longer than I have and get a real glassy finish, or as best you can in there, because what you don't want to do is the wood to catch on the inside of this. So that's probably it. Can we see what's in there? I'm not sure if I can get this camera now to see what's in there. There we go. Yeah, just about see there. He says. Yeah, so it's nice size for a 100 gram ball of wood. To finish that. Right, next thing to do is to find somewhere where you're going to cut your shape into. And as I learnt the hard way, you don't want to shape like that, because the wool just pulls straight out the top here. What you do want is something a little bit more curly, so when you pull the wool it stays in the top of your hole. I was going to use my high-speed grinder to try and do this, but I think the power supply is going on it, so I'm going to have to do it a slightly different way. So I think I'm going to put this, I'll leave that crack alone. I'm going to put it here where there's a little bit of heartwood and a little bit of sapwood, and I know I'm not sure there's any scientific place to put your first bit, but if we're going to start our little, that's no good either. Let's try that. And can you see that? I don't think you can see that, can you? No. So I don't want to use a Sharpie. So the idea being that that's where the wool's going to come out. So I'm going to take that around and back up to the top, and again around and then back up to the top. Okay, so there's quite a lot of material to cut away there. You can flare this out at the top to make it look a little bit pretty. Depends whether you're going to put a lid or something on the top. Well, that's it. That's my shape. Can you see that? Just about. So I'm going to use a coping saw to try and cut this out. You could drill that first bit. I might just do that actually to start off with, if I can find. Maybe it's thicker than I thought. There we go. There we go. It is slightly thicker than I thought. But... So I'm going to cut this. Let's see if I can lock it off now. I should have locked the chuck before I. Come on. There we go. So I'm going to start from here and then just follow that round as best I can. Ooh. I can take that mask off now. Phew. Getting really hot in there. And it's a case of following your pencil line down. Who'd have thought you'd been watching somebody butcher a piece of wood turning tonight, eh? Turn that a bit more. And eventually you get to the little hole you made. And then you can start the process all over again coming back out. I'm trying to follow it now fairly closely at the moment, only about 4 mil or so apart, and I'll get wider towards the top. And it's starting to get a bit wider now. And I'm just starting to flare it out at the top here to follow that line as near as damn it. There we go. Right, so this next bit, there's no shortcut to this. You have just got to get in there with sandpaper or your carving knife or whatever tool you have to hand to make it nice and smooth. You don't want the wool snagging on it. Yeah, I think you can probably see the shape. Where are we? There it is. Yeah, so this has all got to be sanded out now, and I say there is no shortcut to it. I think I'll just see if I can get my drill to work. I don't know if it will or not. It's been playing up since yesterday when I started this. Yeah, doesn't sound very well, does it? And then you can just get in there and make all the edges nice and round. Oop. I think this should be about 3 times the speed, but it sounds very sick. Come on. No, I think that's fighting a losing battle with this. Just that the power supply is whistling and it shouldn't be. So back to sandpaper. I don't possess any really sharp chisels or things that I can use, I don't think. So get a piece of sandpaper in there and away we go. How are we doing? 8 o'clock. That's right, isn't it? Try not to keep you guys too long. And you've missed episode 1 of Corrie, so I'm sorry about that. Getting a bit warm in here now. Hey. So obviously you're going to spend a lot longer than I am in doing this. Oops, lost my sandpaper now. And make sure you get the burrs off the inside as well. So I think if I get my high speed grinder fixed there, it'll be a lot better. Yeah, obviously to try and sand that now with this turning is a nightmare, so I have finished this off on the outside, apart from obviously where I got to do the work on the cut in. There's still quite a lot to do. There's quite a lot of material to come away to make that nice and round and make that nice and organic shape on there. I've only used, what have used, microcrystalline wax I put on there, and I'll probably do the same on the inside. It's not going to get a huge amount of handling, but obviously it's going to get handled, so microcrystalline wax is a good way to go, or oil. Any oil will do, to be honest. But so that's that. So next thing to do is get rid of the base. I'll come back to sanding that another time. So I'm going to take it out the chuck, he says, trying to find the chuck key, and then sort of reverse chuck it. And what I've got here is a piece of plywood. It's about 8 inches across, I suppose. Some high density foam. That's the one. Again, this is, I think it's a record faceplate. And that just expands inside that faceplate. There we go. Centre to hold this on place. And if you leave a centre mark in the base of your bowl at the chucking point, then this should go back on quite nicely, he says. And just crush it up against that foam. There we go, and that's not going to go anywhere, that, so. Ooh, it's not quite in the centre, is it either? Yeah, I think because I did this yesterday and haven't done it all in one go, it's what I'll try and do now is take that foot off. Again, use a small bowl gouge. And then just taking nice light cuts on this, he says. Again, this is the bowl gouge. You could just spindle gouge for this if you wished. It's worth checking every now and again if you're going to do this way that your bowl isn't coming loose against the foam, and if it is, you just need to tighten up a little bit more. But I'm going to take a nice light cut, not putting too much pressure on there. Nice sharp bowl gouge. And I'm going to make the base a little bit sort of hollow so that it'll sit on the outside of the foot rather than across the centre. So I'm going to make sure it's hollow. I'm going to take as much as I dare take off this. And perhaps I might just get in there with a spindle gouge. And that's probably as much as I want to take off for now. I'll cut the rest off with a flush cut saw. So I'm going to just sand that down now, and I'm also going to make sure that I have a dimple across the foot rather than it sitting proud anywhere. Yeah, that's fine. Just I can just see the light through, shining through there, so that's fine. That's quite a deep cut there, not sure where that's from. I'll leave it for now, I'll have to sand it off on the belt sander, I think. Yeah, I've got a very small foot on this, it's only, I don't know, 5mm if that. And I'm going to put some black or coloured green baize or something on the bottom there, just to give it a little bit of, make sure it sticks to wherever you're putting on table or whatever it's going on. I'm just going to start this off before I take it off the yeah, I'll just continue to cut that off now. There we go. And then again I'll just get something to tidy up the base there. So there we have it. I haven't finished the inside of this, but I will do something with it later just to save. And I said I'll probably use microcrystalline wax or something like that inside, or maybe just an oil that will dry. So there we go, there's a bowl. Where's the other one I made? Yeah, actually I've got more of these now than I need. If anybody needs a yarn bowl, let me know. I need to finish this off, obviously that's still quite poor, but at least the yarn should stay fairly well up inside there once it's been pulled. I have seen them with holes in the side so you can put your knitting needles in. That's great if you've got no knitting on it, but if you've got knitting on your needles, that isn't going to go through there, so I decided that I wouldn't put that sort of feature into these bowls at all.